All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Heroes Connect Military to Manufacturing event. My name is Katie Bowerman, and I oversee the virtual Heroes Make America Skill Bridge training program, as well as moderate our virtual events just like this. So whether you're a seasoned Heroes Connect attendee or new to our show, we are happy to have you spending the next hour with us. We started these events 2 years ago to help open our military population's eyes to the manufacturing and supply chain industry. Oftentimes, our companies go unnoticed simply because folks have never heard of them before, right? They might be a name that they've never seen or heard of, but we're here today to change that. So manufacturing is such a dynamic industry, and our military talents are so well aligned with the many positions that these companies have. So we just don't know what we don't know, and we're hoping to change that a little bit each time we do these events. So, all right, let's get to who we're here talking with today. A company that you may not have heard of before, right? But makes crucial components for the transportation aerospace industry sector. So we've got Howmet Aerospace joining us today. Before I pass it over to them, I want to do some housekeeping to make sure that we're all good to go for the event. All right, so first off, the event is being recorded. So as part of a recap email that we'll send out, we are going to send the recording. So with that being said, please stay muted throughout the presentation just to make sure that we do have a clean recording. But even though we're staying muted, I still want you to be an active participant in the event. We live in the chat box. So if you have questions as the presentation is going along, put them in the chat box. We're going to do a Q&A at the end. I'll pull up all the questions. I'll moderate that session, and I'll talk through all the questions that you guys have. So don't wait, just throw it in there, and I'll come back to those questions. All right, so let's try out that chat box real quick. So if you can all pull it up, what I want you to do and put in there is if you are job searching, what location are you job searching in? So city, state, region, state. I'm just looking on the East Coast. What is that area? I'm only looking at Atlanta, Georgia. What are those areas that you are looking for? You do that. While you're doing that, I want to talk through the Heroes Make America program briefly, just in case you're not sure. We have a lot of students on our call, but we might have other military affiliated folks on this call, company reps, community partners joining us today. So if you're not familiar with the Heroes Make America program, we are a DoD-approved skill bridge program that is open to transitioning service members. We got veterans, reservists, National Guardsmen, military spouses, all kinds of folks who are earning certifications through our trainings. We're equipping them with rewarding careers in the manufacturing supply chain industry. So our students learn things like safety, quality practice, operations, how manufacturing works. We have a technical training through our industrial systems. They're learning hydraulics, pneumatics, mechanical components. We've got a logistics training. We've got the folks who are making the products, working on the operation production side, fixing all the equipment, and then we've got the folks who are shipping all that out to the customers. So manufacturing is a dynamic industry in terms of positions that are available, and our trainings reflect those. So here are our training tracks, our upcoming class dates. Our program managers will drop in our contact information. If you have questions, go ahead and contact us. All right. I did say we're a little dynamic, not only the industry, but also Heroes Make America. So we not only do these Wednesday events, we also have a quarterly career fair where we bring on about 30 employers to the career fair to meet with you all, right? To talk through the companies and meet with potential job seekers. So mark your calendars. Friday, May 10th is our next career fair from 11 to 2 Eastern. You won't see the registration quite yet. It opens next Friday, April 19th, but mark your calendars, get those resumes ready, and be prepared to register starting next Friday. All right, that's enough about Heroes. Let's go ahead and move on to our main feature. We're going to talk through Howmet Aerospace. So I'm going to go on and kick it over to Will Dickens, the operations manager for Howmet out in California. So Will, the floor is yours.
All right. Okay. Good afternoon to everyone, or good evening. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to allow us to introduce you to our manufacturing business. Okay. Next. All right. First, I'd like to introduce myself. As stated, my name is Will Dickens, and I'm your presenter for today's event. I'm currently the plant operations manager at the Rancho Cucamonga facility. I joined Howmet Engines in 2012, shortly after leaving active duty and retiring. During the past 12 years, I've held a variety of department supervisory and management roles here in Southern California. I have a BS in Management Information Systems, a Master's Business Administration. I'm also a Marine, a veteran, much like you all. I spent 24 years on active duty in the Marine Corps, serving as an infantry officer. Prior to gaining my commission, I was an enlisted Marine in aviation logistics. I spent a significant amount of time around F-18s, CH-46s, CH-53s, Cobra attack helicopters. And that's where I spent a lot of my enlisted time. I spent about 9 years before I was commissioned. I served in both Iraq and Afghanistan, leading troops on the ground, and also in addition to leading troops on the ground, I also operated at some of the high-level commands. In fact, I worked for General Petraeus, General Crystal in theater, spent quite a bit of time in Afghanistan. One of my tours was about 13 or 14 months. I currently reside in Temecula, California, and you can see on the bottom of the slide some of the activities that I'm still engaged in, even though I'm a retiree. Next slide. All right, I'm not alone here today. We do have Howmet Veterans Aerospace. We have Howmet Aerospace panel veterans and HR talent acquisition members who are here to assist with answering questions and help you understand who we are as Howmet. So let's start with Arthur. If you could introduce yourself, and then we'll go right down the line with Henry and then the acquisition team.
Sure. My name is Arthur Howell. Served 2 years with the U.S. Army. I was injured in line of duty. I've been back in country since 2001, so it's been 22 years ago. Wow, I haven't thought about that in a long time. My primary responsibility for Howmet Aerospace is something called our Senior Incident Response Engineer. We work mainly with security, cybersecurity specifically. There are roles in every level of the company, from production all the way up to corporate, and there are many roles within it for IT personnel. I, again, was U.S. Army. Not sure what else to say. It was 20 years ago. But I do currently lead as the Veterans Coach here of the ERG here at Howmet. So if you join Howmet and you're looking for resources that help veterans, I would be the person you would speak to most likely. Henry?
Hey, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Henry Lewis, United States Air Force, going on 24 years. I spent my first 4.5 years active duty out of Moody Air Force Base, deployed to Afghanistan, Kuwait, Uzbekistan, etc. I will retire this upcoming July from the reserve after 24 total years of service. So I'm happy about that. My primary responsibility at Howmet, I am a engineering lead and or project manager, executing on a lot of capital projects, both for maintenance, production, and some new projects. I lead a team of 2 other engineers, a mechanical and an electrical engineer. Yeah, that's all I got for now.
Okay. Anyone else plan to introduce themselves from the HR talent team?
Well, I think we've got Angela, Rachel, Anita, and Nicole on standby for questions during the Q&A panel.
Great, fantastic. We'll just move on to the next slide. All right, who are we? Who is Howmet Aerospace? A lot about who we are is in these 2 statements, our vision statement and our mission statement. I'll read both of these statements and think about some of the key words that you pull from these statements. Our vision: we are a company of innovators and makers. We are transforming the future with high-performance engineering solutions that are paired with advanced manufacturing expertise. That's our vision. Our mission is to leverage our differentiated technologies to reduce the carbon footprint of our customers by delivering products that enable lighter, more fuel-efficient aircraft and commercial vehicles, and enabling sustainable power generation. That is who we are. And you'll see as we go through this presentation, you'll see some of these keywords come out on the slides as we talk about what we do and how we do it. Okay, next slide.
Sorry about that. Not sure what happened to the sound. I'm not sure if you guys could hear that or not.
I could hear it okay over here, but anyways, good video. That's a good representation of a lot of the products we produce. All right, about Howmet. Let's talk about Howmet a little bit. We are certainly, we are indeed a trusted brand with 80-plus-year history, holding a leading position in commercial and transportation markets. We have the differentiated technologies and know-how, along with some well-developed customer relationships and proprietary technologies that allow us to reduce aircraft fuel consumption and carbon emissions. We are a mission-critical supplier in this aerospace business, providing more than 90% of the structural and rotating aero engine parts. Okay. Next slide. All right. What do we do? What does Howmet do? Howmet's broken into four major business segments. As you can see on the screen, engineered products. This business segment produces components for cleaner, more fuel-efficient aircraft engines. The fastening system produces aerospace industrial fasteners that hold together. I use the term stitch or hold together aircraft, jet engines, trucks, and wind turbines. And then we have engineered structures. This business segment, we manufacture multi-material structural parts for aircraft and vehicles. And then finally, the fourth segment is forged wheels, which produces aluminum wheels for commercial trucks, which enables or allows them to run lighter and more fuel efficient. Okay. How we operate. Oh, give me a second. Okay, how we operate. I was concerned because I had a message pop up on my screen. My computer was going to reboot. I hope not in the middle of this. All right, how we operate. We operate, as often said by the CEO, we operate as one team, one direction, using one plan. Very similar to what many of you are used to as military personnel. You have a commanding general. He executed an assigned mission for that division of combat troops. Okay, very same concept. And this operational concept allows us to, or requires us to do really, is to value our people, foster an environment, speak up culture, embrace an inclusive environment that supports the communities in which we operate. It also requires us to drive operational excellence. Operational excellence, I'm talking continuous improvement on all of our work, our products that we produce and deliver that value to the customer. And we win together, we win with our customers, and we deliver them our quality products. Okay, next slide. Okay, Howmet Aerospace overview here. This is an overview of our earned revenue in 2023. We earned about $6.6 billion with 23,000 employees, 57 facility locations in 23 countries. You can see down the middle of the screen where what market sector our revenue came from. 49% of it came out of the commercial aerospace business and 15% out of defense, 21% out of commercial transportation, and then 15% in other. Off to the right, you can see the breakout by business segment, and you can see that engines product produced about 49% of our revenue, 20% came through fastening systems, 18% through the forged wheels segment, and then 19% from engineered structures. And then on the very bottom right, you can see what region of the world our revenue came from. 56% from the Americas, 31% in Europe, and about 11% in Asia. Okay, so that's what we look like in terms of revenue. Next slide. Okay, our commitment to sustainability, a sustainable world. We are indeed committed to a sustainable world. In other words, we strive to maintain a balance and avoid depletion of our environment, environmental resources and natural resources with the use of innovation, technology, advanced technology. We are committed to a sustainable world for our customers, for our markets, and for our communities that we work in. We work extremely hard to reduce impacts to the environment. We work extremely hard to reduce impacts of air travel and commercial transportation. We design materials that allow for greater fuel efficiency, which I've touched on, materials for lightweight composite airframe construction on aircraft, and we design forged aluminum wheels to reduce truck weight and improve the fuel efficiency of those trucks. All of these efforts minimize our operational impact on the environment. We are reducing emissions. We use a lot less energy. We use less water. We value our people. We make significant efforts to connect with the communities that we work in by investing in STEM. I'm talking science, technology, engineering, and math. And we invest in workforce development. And we employ a lot of employee volunteerism in and around the communities in which we operate. So through these innovations, we are advancing the sustainability of our customers, markets, and our communities. Next slide. Okay, regarding that 2023 $6.6 billion that we referred to a few slides back, 85% of it comes from a number one or a number two market position. As you can see on the slide on the left, engines products, we are number one in 3 of the 4 markets identified. We're only number 2 in 1 market, in structural casting. And then across the other business segments, fastening systems, engineered structures, and forged wheels, we all of those segments hold number 1 positions. Okay, it says a lot about us. We're earning 85% of our revenue practically from a number 1 market position. Okay, next slide. Okay, the veterans who introduced themselves at the beginning of this presentation are members of a Veterans Employee Resource Group, to include myself. We have several employee resource groups in the company, of course, and one of those groups is the Howmet Veterans Network, which for us veterans, it allows us an opportunity to continue serving each other, to serve other veterans and the communities in which we work. This Veterans Network is of such prominence that we have executive level sponsorship. You can see down on the bottom right of the screen, we have a senior vice president and general manager who helps support the existence and the mission of the Veterans Network. Okay, next slide. Okay, and on this screen, you can see here, pictured to the left is a Hampton operation. That's a Veterans Network group there. And then on the right, that's the Minnesota Machine and Integrated Structures Veterans Network. They're presenting a check to a local support organization who helps veterans in need. And many veteran networks across the country at many different facilities are performing very similar services and acts of giving back to the community all across the company. Okay, next slide. All right, here's a map of the 28 U.S. locations representing all 4 of our business segments. And you can see from the West Coast through Central Texas into the Midwest and the Northeastern United States, we're well represented. Just know that many of you are probably not from the current base or place that you're assigned to right now, and you're going to transition back home. Just know that there's probably a Howmet facility somewhere near you with an opportunity for you to join us. Next slide. Okay, what type of positions do we have and how do we apply? You can see listed on the screen here, there's several different positions that may be of interest to you. And this is not all inclusive. There are many, we couldn't list everything on this list, but you got quite a few opportunities there. for you to apply for: production supervisor, metallurgist, certified welders, operations managers. There's also opportunities in maintenance. It's not listed on here. That's maintenance personnel. We're looking for logistics personnel, all kinds of opportunity. We encourage you to, if you find interest, go to the website that's listed and take a look at careers at Howmet and see if there's an opportunity for you. Okay, next slide. Okay, and Howmet's, please, here's an opportunity for you to engage with us. Howmet's on several social media platforms: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I know that most of you have some engaging activity on these platforms. So please take a look and engage Howmet and see some of the wonderful things that we're doing across the country and around the world. Okay. All right. That concludes my briefing. I've talked a little bit. I gave you a quick overview and an introduction to Howmet Aerospace. I've shared with you our vision and our mission. Additionally, we talked about who we are, what we do, and how we operate. I hope you've gained some insight and understanding about Howmet Aerospace. I would like now to open it to the floor for questions or comments. Please feel free to direct any of your questions that you may have to myself, veteran members, or the HR acquisition team.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. At this time, let's do some Q&A. We've got lots of time to answer your guys' questions. So the way that we're going to move forward, if you have a question and you don't want to come on live, just put it in the chat box. I will read it off for you. If you do want to come on live and ask your question to these folks, there is a raise hand feature. It's either going to be in the reaction on your control panel. There's a reaction button and there's a raise hand feature. Just raise your hand and I'll call on you. So if you guys want to start getting those questions, I am going to bring back up the slide that has who is who on this panel. We have Arthur and Henry joining Will and I to talk through any questions that are related to their positions and just as veterans in general. And then we've got some HR folks waiting in the wings to answer questions that are pertaining more to the HR side. So I'll kick it off while you guys are thinking of your questions. I want to talk through each of your positions a little bit more, right? So when we see plant operations manager, I see the word operations, and I know that word because of the military, right? We know operations when it comes to the military, but what does that mean for Howmet? So if each of you can kind of go through, what do you do in your position? What is it actually that you do that you take care of? And then we'll go from there. So Will, do you mind giving us a little more background on what you do, and then we'll go through to the other guys? Did I lose Will?
I'll pick it up. Hi,
Arthur.
everybody. I'm Arthur Howell, and I'm obviously the most loudest and fun person here. I saw a question down here, which was, I applied to 2 jobs back in Hampton, VA. Where do I go from here? That's a great question. What I would try to do is encourage you to engage with the hiring manager at that location, and the HR people can probably answer that way better than I can, because we don't do hiring and firing. But the question as to what my job is, my job is in cybersecurity. And I can tell you that the biggest and hardest challenge for me when I transitioned out was to figure out what to do with my life. I felt, for lack of a better term, worthless. Like I didn't know no one was telling me anything anymore. So I didn't know where to eat, what to eat, when to bathe, or anything else. Like it took a long time to really understand that when you're completely free, the world is different. And that led me to many years of school. I wasted my GI Bill like nobody's business. And through doing that, I found computers. And that became for me a hobby that led to a lifestyle that created a career that has just thrust me forward. And if I did not find the computers when I found them, I don't know what my life would be like today. But what I learned from all that, or what I do with my day to day, is I hunt cyber criminals, essentially. People all over the world want to steal secrets. They want to remove our intellectual property. They want to destroy it. They want to encrypt it and make us pay them money to get it back. And my job is to protect us from all of those threats. The reason why you don't get spam email most of the time or things of that nature. That's what our job is here, at least in the incident response category. Henry, do you want to fill us in on what you do as the engineering lead?
Sure. So here at Howmet Cleveland, we're a forging facility. We have the largest forging hydraulic press in the United States. And a lot of my projects circle around sustaining the equipment, keeping it running, along with some new automation. I did notice that my new robot cell, I couldn't really pinpoint in that video, but I didn't realize you guys actually had footage of my robot cell in your video. But I'm also heavily involved with robotics, something that I kind of stumbled upon. It's not typical for a mechanical engineer to work with robots, but given the facility, given the workforce, I was fortunate to have the opportunity to learn how to program robots. I didn't mention this before in my introduction, but Howmet has also afforded me the opportunity to take some smart manufacturing training in MIT in Boston, and that was pretty neat. Not something that you typically see companies do, and I was very fortunate to do that. So a lot of projects around keeping the equipment running, upgrading the equipment, making improvements, making it more user friendly, adding a lot of technology to old equipment. So, for example, human interface displays, getting away from the old push buttons on a lot of our equipment. You know, that's some of the things that we do on a regular basis here at Howmet Cleveland.
That was fantastic. And we have another question. So I like
Yeah.
this question here. It was, how quickly do we promote? And that is an excellent, great question. It heavily depends on you as your performance, but we do annual performance reviews. So there is an opportunity every year for advancement if there's a position open and you meet the prerequisites for it. Now, that might mean you could go from walking in off the street as an entry level tech that changes out drill fittings all the way to a plant manager in a reduced time frame, but along the way, Howmet does support you. We will help you to go to school. We will help support you in your career endeavors. As Henry mentioned, he went to MIT. That's fantastic. Like we try to do our best to make sure that you get on the path you want to be on and help you maintain it. So there is a path forward, and it is pretty fast progression, in my opinion. Do you feel the same way, Henry? And if Will's back, he's welcome to jump in. I just haven't seen him.
Yeah, Arthur, I would agree that there's an opportunity for advancement at Howmet. I've been promoted 2 times in about 6 years. I've turned down roles as well, but there's always opportunities within the organization for promotion. Definitely.
And you see the same annual cycle, right? Of reviews and decisions.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
If I could jump in here. So
Of
this
course.
is Rachel Brockett speaking. I am based out of Cleveland and Barberton. I work as the talent acquisition specialist for the Wheels business unit. Just speaking to kind of upward progression, as Henry and Arthur already touched on, we actually have what are known as succession plans for each role. So we meet either annually or biannually. I apologize for not remembering the exact interval, but we meet with our managers for each department and each role to determine kind of where each employee is at in their role and their potential for upward mobility. So is this person eligible for a promotion, be it, an engineer level 2 or a supervisor or a manager? So that is something that we kind of partner with our employees on, where it's not just, okay, as an employee, I'm thinking about my upward progression. I have to seek out these opportunities. Your managers and HR managers and contacts will work on kind of the other end. of that for you as well.
Okay, thank you. There was something else I wanted to mention just while we have the opportunity. For me, when I transitioned out, my hardest problem was interpersonal skills. When you're in the military, everything is kind of told to you. You just do it, react, you just do it. And you don't really think about the ramifications on other people of just doing it all the time. The issue that I ran into was how to relate and throttle my emotions in a way that allowed me to deal with people on a regular basis. The reason I'm speaking about this is that a lot of companies, including Howmet, have internal training programs for things like management training. We have internal training programs that help with just interpersonal skills. And some of those are Skillsoft or other vendors like that. Other ones are internal, just lunch bag trainings. We do try to work very closely together as a big team. And it's one of the few places I felt like part of a team.
Awesome.
So
You,
thank you.
Arthur, and yeah, thank you both for those explanations. I think internal promotion is obviously very huge. You want to be able to promote your employees from within, but I have a on the flip side question. So, what about for our retirees or more senior military folks? And this could be from Arthur, Henry, or from our HR team. How about being hired into maybe a leadership role versus growing from within? So we've got some of our 20 plus year retirees. Is there
So
opportunity to
direct
go
crossing
right
over,
into?
right?
Yep. Yeah. So I guess Arthur, Henry, or HR team, what do you see outside candidates getting hired into leadership positions? Does that happen?
I'll keep being loud and fun. All right. So I was hired on as a lead directly. I did not come into the company and work my way up. I literally was hired directly to my position. The way that that works is experience. It's demonstrable experience in your field, whatever it happens to be. Some things convey, some things don't. The things that do convey, you want to upplay in your resume when you apply for the job. Because when we do the first round of cuts on the people that come into the higher position, right? There's a like process to look for what you know, and you need to demonstrate that in your resume so that we find the right people. To me, that's the hardest part of trying to hire people right now is finding the right people for the job. HR probably knows better than I do, though, so I'll let them talk.
So yeah, anyone from HR want to
Rachel, you
drop it?
volunteered before. Do it.
I am so sorry. I was texting a candidate while you were speaking. What was the question?
It's okay.
Yeah, it was in
So,
regards to being hired directly into leadership positions. Is that a possibility versus having to start from the bottom and working your way up?
Definitely. I think it depends on kind of like years of service and years of experience, as well as one of the things that I find is most transferable between service and then being hired into our company is equipment knowledge. So I know that a lot of our roles in wheels cover like PLC logic, as well as like hydraulic and pneumatic presses, and I think those translate over well. I think that if you have a combination of kind of that technical knowledge and then management experience, I would say, maybe managing 10 plus people, you would definitely be eligible for like a managerial position, if not directorial. That one might get a little bit more tricky though. Obviously, I can't make any promises, but that's definitely something that we are open to.
Thank you, Rachel. And then, do you all have a management training program? So let's say, maybe one of our, maybe not a senior NCO, maybe like an E5, E6 coming out with some experience, maybe not top line management, but are there some type of management training programs through Howmet that someone could go through and learn the business and go that route?
I think
Sure.
that's
Sure.
I was going to say, I think that's going to be similar to kind of what Arthur already touched on. So a lot of online resources. I do know that we have trainee programs, but the ones that I'm most familiar with are for hourly workers. So I'm not necessarily well versed in managerial training.
There's also reimbursement training where you pay up front and then the company reimburses you.
And here in Niles, we have apprenticeship programs as well for the technical positions.
And I think Henry wanted to say something too. I'm sorry, Henry.
Yeah, I also participated in a business leadership workshop, which I would probably say is somewhat equivalent to like an NCO academy for like the military or like your PME type of education.
So a lot of support around management training.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, welcome
that's-
back, Will.
Oh, let's go back. Let me bring it back on.
He's talking, but he's muted.
Get connected here in a minute. Perfect. So then, oh, look, Will's back.
Okay. Yeah, I said my apologies to you guys. My computer did actually reboot. I don't know why. I don't know why we would have a program loading in the middle of the day, but nonetheless, I'm here.
So, Will, what you missed were just some questions, but I want to circle back to the first question that I asked the gentleman here, was talking a little bit more about your position and what you do, especially because as a plant operation manager, that's very transferable to a lot of our military understand, right? The operation piece of military. So can you talk about what you do as a plant manager, right? What do you do in plant operations? Maybe how big is your team, like hierarchy of your team? Because I know you're towards the top, obviously.
Here at the plant, we have close to 480 employees, down from the numbers that we had prior to the pandemic. However, for me as an ops manager, my fingers is in everyone's pie. That's what they say to me. I see the overall operational activity of the plant every day. And I host an operations meeting that includes all of the different departments across the plant that are involved in manufacturing a part from raw material all the way to the shipment of those products to a customer. So my daily routine involves me coming in the morning. I'm looking at production output reports from the previous day to get an understanding of where we are and how well we performed to our key metrics the previous day. And then I host the operation meeting in the morning to get some commitments from the departments about what we're going to produce for that day. So most of my daily activity is driving the production activity through each of the departments and supervisors and managers to run those particular departments. So the key metrics like revenue, daily absorption and recoveries. I'm also involved in safety and quality management activities. So and having been in the military, I would tell you, a lot of people are not really aware of some of the skills that they bring, some of the critical skills that they bring to any organization outside the military. But just your ability to give people direction, stand up in front of people and talk, being able to adjust quickly to an environment that may not be used to what you're used to is adverse. You can adapt. So you learn a lot of skills, to include technical skills, that you can apply to the daily activity. So I'm across a very large swath of activity and departments that I oversee.
Thank you, Will. I am going to take it back to a slide that you guys have that has different positions on it, because you talking about, Will, how you have a hand in everyone's pie, like so many positions under you as a plant operations manager, right? So I want to talk about different positions in companies, right? When you're coming out of the military, you know what you know, right? You know your type of position, and maybe if there's a transferable position on the outside, but you may not know all the opportunities that are out there and the transferable skills that could go into these other positions. And I love the three of you because you're all very different. We got cyber, we have engineering, and we have operations. Very different. And the types of positions that you guys have, the skills that you use, and what you brought from the military. Can we talk a little bit more about, okay, we have your titles. What about other positions that are related to you that maybe these folks could look into? Because maybe they're not ready to go straight up to plant operation manager or, engineering lead. You guys are in top positions. What about some under you that they could maybe look at to apply into to get into Howmet? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Each of you can talk about your segments.
Yeah, just real quick, Rancho, for example, it's not included on this list, but I need forklift drivers, someone who can drive a forklift and perhaps work in the shipping department. Then start your way up, work your way up to a lead position, and then potentially the shipping supervisor or shipping manager. So that's just one example of a position where you can start, at the what I call at the lower level and work your way up. Also, for me in forging operations, we hire a lot of helpers. I have a supervisor now who started as a helper. He came in as a helper, working on the floor, just assisting the blacksmiths in the forging processes and activities. And then he became a lead man, and then now he's a supervisor and en route to potentially becoming a manager of that department because he's taken off-duty education to, get a degree. So those are two examples that I have here at my facility in Rancho.
And so cybersecurity is, wow, what a field. So the lowest positions, the ones that are generally entry level, are usually security operations center or something of the like, usually security monitors, things of that nature. There's also, so I would like to just speak to all of corporate. There is a ton of positions that you can entry level into in corporate as well. Everything from secretarial positions to database administrators, sysadmins, help desk support people. There's so many entry level positions in a corporate office. It is insane. And if you apply yourself outside of what you're currently doing, you use that GI Bill, get the education. That's the one thing I would recommend the most. It will help you further yourself in a corporate position as well. So there's a ton of positions that are entry level, but still corporate side. In my wheelhouse though, security has divisions for red teaming, which I think we all know what red teaming is, but that's attack and defend. Red team would be attack. There's blue teaming, defensive positions like what I have, incident response. There's also system architecture, security architecture. There is data loss prevention. There's employee investigations, employee relations. There's other jobs that do nothing but reverse engineering exploits to know what they do and how they work so that we can do our jobs more effectively. So there's the gamut in cybersecurity. Henry?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the slide here. I see production worker, electricians, millwrights. I worked aircraft maintenance for rescue helicopters during my active duty days. And I would argue that that particular role in the military would be transferable to either a millwright or an electrician, clearly a production worker. Right now, we're currently hiring for electricians and millwrights, and we also have a skilled trade program that would kind of get those individuals, if they qualify, through the journeyman program for their trade and get them licensed. But yes, a lot of the experience in the military, no matter what the branch is, it's easily transferable to different roles. Don't get cued in on the details of the job descriptions. Something that my HR friend mentioned to me a long time ago. They're really only looking for 80% of the qualifications, not 100. It's almost impossible to get 100% of the job description for every candidate. So keep that in mind and don't sell yourself short.
Can I ask you a question directly, Henry?
Sure.
The journeyman program, do you have to be certified before you can enter it?
You just have to test into it. So from what I understand, there's a competency type test. And if you score high enough, then you get into the actual program, and then you start the program and start the training. It's a mix of classroom time that the company pays for after hours and on the job training.
That sounds amazing. Thank you.
Awesome. And Angela, I happen to see you nodding your head when he was answering. Is there anything else you wanted to add on that? Oh, you're muted.
That I was just agreeing that there is a pre-assessment to get into that position for the journeyman positions. And it's like basic knowledge about that particular type of apprenticeship or journeyman position. But it allows someone who hasn't attended a trade school or who doesn't have the necessary experience from other employers to move into a role that they don't really have experience with.
Awesome. Thank you, Angela. Perfect. It's all great information. I do have a couple well, we're on the HR train. Let's ask a couple of the other HR questions that a lot of folks just right off the bat are like, I'm ready to apply. How far out in advance do I need to apply? So let's talk through the application process. I see a job posting today. I maybe can't start working until June. How soon should I start applying? So anyone from HR, how long is the process usually from application to hire take? How far in advance should they be applying to these jobs? Nicole, I saw you unmute.
I'll take it, sure. I would say it varies depending on the role, depending on if it's an hourly role, a salary role, an engineering position, a HR position. The timeline from application to job offer can be anywhere from a week to 6 weeks, just based on the level. I would say apply as soon as you found a position that you think is a good fit for you. I would also recommend refreshing your application every few months, probably like every 60 to 90 days, because we do the same on our end. We try to keep our job postings pretty fresh so that we're always getting a good, strong pool of candidates. But if you're not available until June, that's just something that you need to let us know, because a lot of times we can work with you as far as a start date. We're pretty flexible, especially if we find the right candidate. We'll put it out as, a couple weeks, a couple months, if that's what we need, if you need time to relocate your family, relocate yourself, things like that. But I would definitely say, number one, apply as soon as you find a role that you feel is a good fit for yourself. And then number two, keep that application up to date or reapply, because we do repost positions every 2 to 3 months to make sure that we're having a fresh candidate pool.
Thank you, Nicole. No, that's great advice. Apply, get in there. And since we're on the application piece, I saw on the website, there's 2 different options, right? There's the upload your resume, and AI will kind of tell you what postings might fit based off your skill set. Can you talk a little bit more about that feature compared to like the talent pool, submitting their resume as part of the talent pool? Talk through both those.
I would, from a personal vantage point on the HR side, I would take the time to actually look up maybe position that you're interested in terms of keywords, especially the location. If there's a location you're really interested in, there are some locations that have hundreds of openings. There's other locations that only have a few. It really just, it varies by business unit. I work for the engines group, and we have about 13,000 employees across the world, whereas, Rachel works for Wheels, and she has significantly less of a headcount to work with there. So when it comes to the drag and drop and the AI, I don't know how much I trust it sometimes. So my personal recommendation would be to, kind of take the time, spend some time scrolling through the different openings. I'm looking at our homepage right now on our careers page, and we have over 600 openings, but you can drill it down to the type of job that you're looking for, whether it's an engineering role or a quality role, or, something in finance. If you have, a desire to, work with numbers every day. So I do think that if you just take, the extra time to put the skill set in and look that way, you might come up with a better fit as you're scrolling through our website.
Thank you, Nicole. And I had another question related to job postings, degrees versus experience. And Rachel, I put in an answer, but wanted to talk through that a little bit more. What about our folks who have experience, 10, 15, 20 years in the military, but never had the time to complete their degree? Because we know a lot of times it's just we don't have the time when we're active duty to actually do class. So what happens if they don't have a degree? Are they still competitive for positions?
Oh yes. Oh yes. It's so education only gets you so far in the world. Everyone has to gain experience. If you spent 20 years in the military, you have learned things. You know how to do conflict resolution, for example. You know how to manage time and you know how to manage people. All of those things are skills that I would recommend you write them down, all of them, and then try to find a way to work those into your resume. Because if it wasn't a class that taught you and life taught you, you still learn. And I would really push that forward. Just keep putting the things on your resume that apply to the job you are applying to the thing that you want to have. The more experience you have, even in a different realm, you still learned something. And I saw Nicole shaking her head again.
I'm not shaking my head. I was thinking of, I wanted to add to, kind of what you were saying, Arthur. Experience, absolutely. You can't get pretty much anywhere without having some sort of experience. There are, though, some positions in the company that do require a degree, specifically an engineering position. So usually if you see the word engineer in the job title, that's going to require some sort of a bachelor's in engineering. It's a commitment that we've basically made to our customers that if you have an engineer working, on your product or, related to your account, they will have that engineering degree. But that does not mean that every single role comes with a degree requirement. And kind of like Rachel said, a lot of it depends on the role. Again, those senior level, director level roles, they're usually going to have some sort of a degree requirement. But we do have positions that we do post that will list, X amount of years experience in lieu of a degree. So it's just dependent upon the specific position.
And I also know in cybersecurity, degrees are good, but there's also certifications.
Yep, absolutely.
So feel free to seek a certification all day and night. That is just as good as a degree in some cases.
And I know, Arthur, you mentioned, make sure you use your GI Bill to, with the education piece of it. We also have a really strong tuition reimbursement program. So a lot of times it really just takes you getting your foot in the door, starting at that entry level position, learning the company, learning our policies, our procedures, learning to love your position with us. Making sure that it's, a good fit for you. And maybe one day you want to go back to school and get your bachelor's in administration so that you can meet the qualifications for another role that's kind of in your career path with us. So we have, like I said, we have a really strong tuition reimbursement program that we're really proud of too, that we offer our full-time employees.
There's one more thing that I almost forgot: demonstrable work. If you can't get the certification and you can't get the degree, get a GitHub page, get a LinkedIn page, post what you work on online so that other people can review it. Please.
Oh, thank you guys. That's really good advice. And I think when I'm working with our transitioning military, right, they're thinking through a lot of these practical things. Like I see a job posting, I don't have a degree, but I have all this experience, and then they get scared away and don't apply. So it's good to know that Howmet is one of those companies that takes experience into consideration. So don't shy away from these positions, guys. Even if it says preferred qualification, still apply, right? As a hiring manager, they want to see all that experience on your resume, and someone just has to take a chance, right? Someone's going to select you if you have that applicable experience. Nicole, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I was just going to agree with you wholeheartedly. Do not skip over an application just because of those certain things. We do have basic qualifications listed on our applications, and then we have the preferred, just like you mentioned, Katie. So when we recognize talent, we will, talk through it and see if we can find, maybe there's a different position that's available in the network that might be a better fit for you, or maybe we might know of one opening, in 6 months that would align with your, your background and your skill set. The biggest part is starting to make the connection now, building the relationships with our organization now, and getting your name, kind of into our system, because you never know when something could open up down the road. And, that's our job in the talent world, is to recognize that talent and then maybe remember, oh yeah, I met that guy Arthur from, that Manufacturing Institute event, and he had the greatest personality ever, and he would be great for this role, but not this role. So it's really, starting somewhere and not skipping over it just because you don't think you meet every single box and don't check every box.
Definitely agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
To
Rachel.
piggyback off that, exactly what Nicole was saying. We are basically your concierges for Howmet Aerospace. It is our job to kind of keep a constant catalog of our open roles and what will be opening. Sometimes all the roles that you see online are not all the roles that we have available. They might not be posted yet. You may have just gotten a resignation or something like that, or somebody was promoted. So I think that it's kind of like there's no shame in trying. If you think that you even match one of the bullet points, go out for it, because we will, recognize the effort that it took to apply to these roles, and we will try to find you a spot.
So thank you, Rachel. So moral of the stories, don't sell yourself short. Before we wrap up, I do want to talk to our three veterans again to kind of close out the event, because the three of you probably didn't, when you joined the military, think, I'm going to go into manufacturing one day. It probably wasn't, your thought that that was your end goal. And maybe it was. Tell me if I'm wrong. But how did you get into, why did you choose manufacturing as the field you went into? In all your different skill sets, how did you land here, and what kept you here? Why manufacturing?
Well, I can start off and tell you that for me, it was because I went on an interview, and I went into I went into a press room where the press was hammering some metal, and it just made me think about combat arms, the infantry and the artillery, all the loud noise. I was fascinated by it. And I was fascinated to see a product go from raw material to finish. And, having had a previous career in aviation, aerospace, aviation around a lot of aircraft, it really interests me. I said, oh, these are the guys who make parts for the aircraft engine, the F-18, the F-35. These are the guys who make that stuff. And that's why I was very interested. And it caught me right away. And I looked nowhere else. I had an opportunity in banking. I had no interest. I pushed it aside, and I stuck with manufacturing once I went on a tour of a facility, and I got to see what they did.
That's a cool story. So I'm not quite as exotic. So cybersecurity is everywhere. Every company needs cybersecurity. Period. There's no exception to that. What interested me in aerospace was the space part, and that was a mistake, I think. It's mostly aero, not space. Everything is in the atmosphere. Anyways, I came here because I liked aerospace. I like planes. I like titanium. I think is a fascinating metal, and so it just moved me to wanting to learn more about it. And what better place than to work for the company that makes all the stuff from it?
I'm kind of in a similar boat to Arthur, where it's like every company is going to need talent acquisition and recruiters. But I love the tangible nature of manufacturing. I love seeing, kind of what was mentioned before, seeing things come to fruition. And I think the history is so cool for our company. We take pride in being American made. And I know that Alcoa Wheels just celebrated its 75th anniversary last year, so it's the stability for manufacturing. We're always going to need truck wheels. We're always going to need structures parts, and we're always going to need engines for things. Yeah, stability thing, and it's a pride thing where it's like we made that in Cleveland's backyard, Denton's backyard. So it's just a way of being in touch with kind of the beginning of the process.
That's a great point, Rachel. Yes, seeing things come to fruition and then resilient industry. You think toilet paper was made during COVID? Yes, it was. Those people were working, right? It was COVID
Sure.
resilient. Trucks
I went
to
to the
move
store,
all
there
the
was no
stuff.
toilet paper.
But same like the truck and trailers, the fasteners, trucks needed to move the stuff, right? Henry, you'll be our last one. We're a little bit over time, but why manufacturing with your engineering degree and background? Why?
Sure, real quick. I mean, I've always been fascinated with flight and aerospace. That's the reason I joined the Air Force. So it was a natural transition for me to work in aerospace after I got my degree. One thing I'd like to point out to all the veterans that are on the call, veterans only make up about 6% of the U.S. population. So when an employer sees veteran on the resume, they think very highly of veterans. In most of my interviews and my experience since I've gotten out of the military, A, I've never not been offered a job, and B, there's always been this fixation with wanting to know more about my military career and less about my experience for the job that I'm applying for. So just keep that in mind. It's well respected. So if you don't have a degree or you're pursuing one, but you still want to get into the workforce, you're already the top candidate just because you've already served in the armed forces.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for your information today. Howmet is a wonderful company. I hope you all learned something today about the positions, the company, opportunities that could be available to you. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our panelists, to our presenters. Thank you to our participants for joining us today. A couple last minute things as we're wrapping up. A poll did get launched, so please go ahead and answer that. Next step to do items. Explore their website. There are so many positions. Go in and watch the videos about the company, the different segments, learn about Howmet, learn about the positions, connect with these folks on LinkedIn. We provided contact information in the chat box. Connect with them on LinkedIn or email or whatever contact information we do have. Follow the Heroes Make America page, as well as join us for our next Heroes Connect event. So today we were talking Howmet and transportation and aerospace and making the different parts. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about building materials. So making different construction materials with Saint-Gobain on April 24th. So thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thank you all. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you.